His name is lifted high and holy. Sing joyfully to the Lord, righteous ones him adore. It is fitting that we give him praise. It's right for the upright to give him praise. In the assembly of your people, in the house of Israel, your name will be glorified in joyful song, and of your wonders we will tell. 'Cause it's right for the upright to give you praise. In the mouth of the upright, you will be praised. In the mouth of the righteous, you will be blessed. It's right for the upright to give you praise. Thanks, everybody. In the mouth of the upright, you will be praised. In the mouth of the righteous, you will be blessed. It's right for the upright to give you praise. With the tongue of the diva, you'll be lifted high in the midst of the holy ones. You'll be sanctified. It's right for the upright to give you praise. It's right for the upright. It's right. Don't be uptight. It's right for the upright to give you praise. So glad you're here. That lag always gets me at the end, you know, when there's like what goes out from here is ahead of what you get. So there's that thing where if I'm monitoring what you're hearing, I'm not paying attention to what's happening here on Technical Central. In any event, that is the tune Shoken Ad, which is Hebrew for it is fitting. You know, in Hebrew, whenever they do prayers from their Siddur, which is the book of prayer, they just name them by the first title of the words. So, for example, Modim means we give thanks, and Shoken Ad means it is fitting. It's right for the upright to give him praise. And so just to mess with everybody's left and right brains, in the Siddur project, I purposely did all the prayers in English and gave an orientation to these ancient prayers, but then I named them in Hebrew. Why did I do that? I did that to get us out of our left brain and to get us to mess with us. I wanted to be able to throw you off with Hebrew names to get you reoriented. You know, we get really, really stuck in our patterns and our habits. So, for example, in here on Shokanad, on the page where I do a little thing about Shokanad, there I am painting one of the prayers for the series, and there on this side is my actual Siddur. You can see a picture of it and how I've even underlined things that were touching to me in the prayers. And so Shokanad, oh sorry, didn't get my Hebrew translation right. He who dwells is what it means. And it starts, he who dwells in eternity, his name is lifted high and holy. Sing joyfully to the Lord. Righteous ones him adore. It's fitting to give him praise. So Shokanad, he who dwells in eternity. That'll teach me to try to be the Hebrew expert. In any event, that's I purposely did these things to kind of shake it up and shake up our thinking about prayer, about worship, about Hebrew, about English. So for the Jewish people, it's going to be disorienting because now they're in English. But what I've heard from my Jewish friends is, wow, I remember these prayers from my my bar mitzvah or from this or from that. Wow, I can't believe to hear them like this. And they're kind of blown away. And for the Gentiles among us, it's kind of, you know, disorienting in another thing, because we sort of thought we owned, you know, we owned prayer, we owned worship, and then you pick up an ancient Jewish prayer book and you go, wow, I can learn a few things from these people. I could learn some things about these ancient prayers. So here we are, my friends, and I'm just going to touch base with you briefly today about resilience and what was the other word I used in my scope today? Oh, resolute and resilient. We're right in there. The Braxton Hicks of the pregnancy, of what's coming forth, they're kind of shaking us. You know, we're holding on. We're standing firm. We're resolute and resilient. And I heard an amazing story from a friend of mine texted me at 11:30 last night, and I love her dearly, but I was actually sleeping so soundly. It was kind of a bummer to get her text. But then I remembered what Curry Blake said about when you know how to heal the sick, you are responsible. So don't go avoiding those calls. And so I got up, listened to her message, and she had chills and shakes, and she was really freaking out and felt really, really sick. And so I thought, well, it's my responsibility to get her well. And I was like, oh, you know, using my authority with a half-closed eye, kind of just getting it done. And she made it through the night, had a couple mild things, woke up totally fine, completely okay. Went in and just in case took a test, totally negative. She's fine. And then we chatted for a little while, and she talked about how she's been interacting with folks in her life and how completely unhinged they are, and how they're jumping to some of the most caustic, ugly conversations and ungodly, unhinged, illogical conclusions, and very, very pejorative, ugly ways to communicate with her. And she has struggled with anxiety and so forth as a physical issue, and as in other words, a chemical imbalance. And so she has had to face the most anxiety-producing thing, which is to have family members gang up on her and bully her and be illogical and be cruel and be kind of in it by herself, essentially. And yet, you know what she's discovering? She's getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and she's actually facing that worst fear thing. And I told her, I said, you know, I really hand it to you, because that would be the lowest on my list of priorities. In any kinds of abusive or ungodly relationships, any kind of ganging up, bullying, cancel culture, that kind of thing, I think is one of the most difficult things that we have to toughen up about, because as believers, we're taught to be kind, and we're taught to be deferential, and we're taught to be humble, and we're taught all of these love skills. but we're not often taught the toughen up buttercup skills that we have to have in dealing with darkness, and when to turn on the kindness, softness, humility, and when to never agree with a mob. Because one of the things that I've learned is that you don't apologize to a mob and you don't agree with a mob. And so, for example, I've had, it was a sad thing, but you guys remember what happened with Roseanne and how the media mob canceled her because of a tweet that wasn't even what they thought it was, and she came out and apologized and said, oh my gosh, I'm not racist. I wouldn't ever want this to be considered racist. That's not who I am. And they saw that as weakness, and they came on her like a pack of wolves. And one of the things I appreciate about Brennan Dilley is the way he coached her, and he said, I wish you had checked with me, and he said to her, you cannot get on in these things where you're talking about high level propaganda and mind control tactics, and where you're talking about a mob and a pack of wolves, and you're talking about bots, and you're talking about people who plan to take you down. You don't apologize to that. You basically say, no, that I'm not going to bow to that. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know where I stand. And but then there are other times we as believers, we do understand the power of humility, the power of a contrite heart. And so for us, it has to do with knowing the context in which to always stay humble and contrite before God, and people with whom we have a relationship where there's actually a viability and there's actually a bridge being built, as opposed to a mob mentality that is unhinged. So these are the things that are kind of happening around us, but I was so proud of my friend because the strength is coming. She's faced her worst fear. Oh my gosh, these are the people that I always thought, would come out with their fangs. And they have. And I'm surviving. And now God is counseling her and speaking with her about the process by which she has to kind of do a little bit of a Sodom and Gomorrah, and turn around and leave that and say, look, anybody wants to come out with me, feel free, come on out, but I can't stay in Gomorrah, and I can't stay in that environment. And God is, if I have to leave you behind and there has to be a separation, I can deal with that, because me and my kids, we're out of this thing. If you guys want to stay around and play, be careful. There's a way out. And sometimes these separations happen where we've done everything we can. And sometimes we're smart enough not to have given our strength away. And we're wise enough to discern when you can't talk to a mob, and you don't talk to a mob, and you don't engage. Learning to engage and learning not to engage. And these are all the things that we muddle through in fear-free living. And we feel it, but we overcome it. And more then we change, so that we're not dominated by a fear of the feeling, right? A worry of the feeling, a control of the feeling. And so we're in these final days, and we're prayerful, and we're active. Remember, we talked yesterday about activating, how activating is a powerful thing we can do. So when you get hit, when something comes against you, when it's personal to you, get up and activate. Get up and move in the opposite spirit. Get up and pray. Get up and share the gospel. Get up and heal the sick. Get up and go out and resist. Get up and wear your hat. Get up and make some calls. Do some specific things that activate you toward the goal of what God has called you to do. In these final days, we're staying resilient. We're staying resolute. And we're keeping our ear to the ground. What is the Lord saying? What are the things that we need to do to prepare our hearts for the long haul here? Once the baby's born on November 3rd, all of that transition and that chaos that happens when new life comes in and other things are displaced, and it can be difficult. And God is going to walk us and journey us through all of those things and more. He absolutely is. And so we're in this together. We're in this together, and we're working it through, and standing firm and standing strong. Look, if anybody in the universe can feel confident in this hour, it ought to be the remnant. If anybody in the universe can be comfortable in something that feels like risk and flotsam and jetsam, it ought to be the remnant. If anybody in the universe could be smiling and happy and creating new sounds and new things, it ought to be the remnant. If anybody who can tolerate difficult truths and hard revelations about our country and our government and people we trusted, it ought to be the remnant. And is that who you are? Are you among the people who have been called out, even sort of as forerunners for the larger body of Christ, to be aware, to be praying, to be educated, to be activated, to be prophetic, to be full of faith, to be the resource carriers to the people in the ark who are going to come out with everything the world needs? And you know, I'm not opposed to, you know, bringing people in. Come on, come into the ark of his confidence. Come to the ark of his blessing. Come to the ark of awakening, of red pilling, of relationship, of abundance, of, you know, and that's who we are, and that's where we are. So we're just kind of holding on. We're doing our thing. We're staying faithful. And some neat things are happening, like some 24-hour, a call for 24-hour prayer slots to pray for the president. Wonder Warrior and Lisa Perna have kind of done that. And if you know how to contact either one of them, Maggie Judd or whatever, that's a cool thing to do. Here in New England, every Sunday at 5 p.m. there is a prayer call for the president led by Lara Trump. Did you know that on Periscope? Also Sunday night there's going to be a national prayer call by the leaders of New England. That's happening. We're going to have a Saturday night Periscope prayer time. Lisa Perna and Andrea Modi and myself, we're going to do that. There's the daily morning prayers that Larry Norris is doing and Maggie Judd is doing and other things. And our time together to stay amped, to stay strong, to stay positive. Because there's always another side. There's the death, and then there's the resurrection. There's the facing the worst fear, and then there's the coming out and going, oh my gosh, I am more than my worst fear. I have more than my worst fear. I carry more than my worst fear. And there is the other side of the moment when you when you are sloppy and messy and you take your stand and it doesn't come out exactly the way you thought. There's always the resurrection life side. And we are in a stage where I believe nationally God is going to let us plant a flag of victory on top of the grave of a government that is sick and full of corruption, a media that's sick and full of corruption, a culture full of sick and corruption. And I believe we as a people are going to be corporately being able to plant a flag of victory, and we're sowing seeds of new life into all of that right now. And that's where I stand. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I'm doing my thing. I'm keeping my eyes on the prize. I'm staying focused. I'm speaking. I'm declaring. I'm ministering. You can too. Let's just stay super productive right now. Producing, sowing, reaching, loving, preparing, growing, right? All these things. This is what we need in this hour. Guys, hang in there. We're doing what we need to do. And God is increasing us daily in number and effectiveness. I really, really believe that. I really do. And if you need something to grant you peace and encouragement, don't forget my my son's album, Meditations. I'm going to play for you the track Waiting. And it's beautiful because at first it sort of has a tick-tock, waiting, waiting, waiting. And then you see the music transform under that into what is God doing in the waiting as we wait upon him, as we wait for the answers, as we are We are engaged in waiting. What is transforming in the nation, even right now in these final days as we wait for November 3rd? So as we check out today, I'm going to play you the song Waiting, and I hope you'll get his album, Jean-Marc Ledoux Meditations. And let's do something that scares us. I'm going to go make some phone calls as soon as we get off today. So anyway, here you go. This is Waiting. Bless you guys. We are being transformed in this last period of waiting on the Lord, standing with Him. So